Dr. Elena Corbin gazed out of the viewport as Earth's modest vessel entered the heart of the Galactic Council's Dyson sphere. The view was breathtaking, a hollow world built around a white dwarf star, teeming with light and energy. The outer walls sparkled with the cityscapes of hundreds of species, each with unique architectural styles and technological marvels. Space itself felt alive, a tapestry of alien vessels gliding through its meticulously coordinated pathways. For all the splendor, Elena's focus remained unshaken. This wasn't a diplomatic visit, it was a trial. The Council's demand for tribute was a thinly veiled ultimatum. Humanity had clawed its way to the stars, battered but unbroken. She wouldn't allow them to lose their freedom now. Approaching Docking Bay 47, the pilot announced, his voice steady but tinged with unease. "Stay sharp," Elena said to her team, glancing at the delegation behind her. There were only 4 of them, scientists and strategists, not career diplomats. "Remember, we're here to represent the entire planet. No pressure." A chuckle from Dr. Lin, the linguist, broke the tension. No pressure at all. Just the survival of humanity riding on your every word. Elena smirked but didn't respond. The truth was too heavy for jokes to lighten. The docking bay was enormous, filled with vessels that made Earth's craft look like a child's toy. As they disembarked, they were met with a blast of cool, artificially regulated air. A protocol droid approached, its body a sleek combination of chrome and translucent panels. "Welcome, Representative Corbin and delegation. The Galactic Council awaits your presence." Elena straightened her shoulders and nodded. "Lead the way." The walk through the corridors of the Dyson sphere felt like stepping into a living museum. Walls of shifting light displayed galactic history and holographic scenes, alien languages flowing like water across their surfaces. Delegates from dozens of species moved purposefully, their forms as diverse as the stars, feathered avians, towering crystalline beings, others beyond easy description. One delegate, a reptilian creature with gleaming black scales, turned its head toward Elena and hissed softly. "Humans," it muttered to no one in particular. Elena ignored the remark. She had a lifetime of practice brushing off disdain, and now wasn't the time to indulge in petty responses. The Grand Assembly Hall was nothing short of awe-inspiring. A vast dome stretched high above, its surface a swirling, holographic display of the cosmos. Delegates sat in tiered rows encircling the central platform, where council matters were debated and decided. "Earth delegation, approach the dais," a booming voice commanded. Elena strode forward, her boots clicking against the polished obsidian floor. At the center stood Archon Xerax's 9, the Arathori representative and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. His tall, angular frame was cloaked in shimmering dark fabrics, and his golden eyes radiated a mix of intelligence and disdain. "Humanity," Xerax's began, his voice carrying an unnatural resonance, a species barely beyond its infancy. "You stand here today because we, the Council, have deemed you worthy of inclusion in our grand coalition. But membership has a cost." The chamber hushed. All eyes, or their equivalent, turned to Elena. Xerax's continued, his tone almost mocking. "Every species contributes to the greater good. Tribute is not just tradition, it is a demonstration of loyalty and respect. Tell us, Representative Corbin, what will Earth offer to prove its worth?" Elena stepped forward, her voice steady. "Earth has nothing to offer, Archon." She let the words hang in the air, deliberately provoking a reaction. The assembly erupted in murmurs, a cacophony of alien languages expressing disbelief, curiosity, and amusement. Xerax's lips curled into a cold smile. "Bold words," he said. "Perhaps too bold. Is this refusal?" "It's truth," Elena countered, meeting his gaze. "Earth has only recently stabilized after centuries of internal strife. Our resources are scarce, our technology still developing. If we were to give you tribute, it would be at the cost of our survival. And what good is a dead ally to the Council?" A ripple of approval moved through some of the delegates, though others remained skeptical. Xeraxes leaned closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper that carried across the chamber. The council does not ask, representative. It demands. Those who refuse rarely survive the consequences. Elena didn't flinch. Humanity didn't come this far to trade one form of oppression for another. If tribute is required to prove loyalty, then I propose a different measure. Test our ingenuity, our problem-solving, our value beyond material offerings. Let us prove our worth through action, not servitude. Silence fell over the hall. Even Xeraxes seemed momentarily taken aback. A delegate from a crystalline species spoke, its voice a symphony of chimes. An intriguing proposition. Archon Xeraxes, could humanity's defiance indicate a strength we have underestimated? Xerax's expression hardened. Defiance is not strength. It is recklessness. The council must not reward insolence. Elena seized the moment. Respectfully, Archon, what is reckless is dismissing a species capable of innovation and adaptation. Humanity's history is one of survival against impossible odds. Give us a chance to demonstrate that, and you may find a greater ally than you anticipated. Xeraxes glared at her, but the murmurs of agreement from other delegates forced his hand. Very well, he said, his tone icy. We will deliberate. But do not mistake this reprieve for leniency. As the session adjourned, Elena and her team returned to their quarters. The tension in the air was palpable. You really had to poke the bear, didn't you? Dr. Lin said, half admiring, half nervous. It's not about poking, Elena replied, sinking into a chair. It's about showing them we're not afraid to stand on our own terms. Her strategist, Commander Malik, nodded. Still, they'll try to crush us. Xeraxes won't let this go unchallenged. I know, Elena said. Her gaze turned toward the viewport, where the swirling light of the Dyson sphere filled the void. But humanity doesn't survive by cowering. We survive by fighting smarter, harder, and together. That's what I'm counting on. The Dyson sphere's artificial day shifted into simulated night, casting long shadows across the quarters. Outside, the council deliberated, their decision hanging like a sword over Earth's fate. But Elena felt no fear, only resolve. Humanity would not bow. Not today. Not ever. The Earth delegation's quarters were modest, their functionality starkly contrasting the opulence of the Dyson sphere's other accommodations. Dr. Elena Corbin sat at the head of a round table, a holographic display casting faint blue light on her sharp features. Surrounding her were Commander Malik, Dr. Lin, and physicist Layla Saraj. The room buzzed with tension, their whispered discussions carrying the weight of Earth's survival. Xeraxes won't let this go, Malik began, his military instincts sharp as ever. He'll push harder, corner us into submission. If we're not careful, this whole thing could turn into a planetary extinction event. Elena's jaw tightened. That's why we can't afford to play this his way. We need leverage, something to disrupt his stranglehold over the Council's narrative. Layla, flipping through a tablet brimming with galactic records, spoke up. Xeraxes thrives on intimidation. His species, the Ra Thori, built their dominance through brute force and fear. But even he answers to the Council's laws, as flawed as they are. There has to be a way to turn that against him. Any ideas? Elena asked, her voice firm but inviting. Dr. Lin leaned forward, his tone hesitant but thoughtful. I've been analyzing the delegates' body language and conversational cues during the session. A few factions seem discontented with the tribute system. They don't vocalize it, probably out of fear, but there's an undercurrent of dissatisfaction. We might find allies among them. Elena tapped her fingers on the table, her mind racing. Allies are useful, but we can't rely on goodwill alone. We need something more, an undeniable argument or a move that shifts the power dynamic in our favor. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Hours later, a message from Xeraxes summoned Elena to a private meeting in his chambers. It was an obvious ploy to intimidate her, but refusing would only play into his narrative of human cowardice. Alone? Malik asked, frowning. Alone, Elena confirmed, standing. He wants to rattle me, and bringing a teen would signal weakness. Don't worry, Commander, I'll handle him. Xerax's chambers were as imposing as the Archon himself. The walls glimmered with dark metal veined by pulsating blue light, the room suffused with an eerie hum. The Archon stood in the center, his golden eyes fixed on Elena as she entered. You're brave to come unaccompanied, he said, his tone laced with mock approval. I don't scare easily, Elena replied, keeping her posture relaxed but alert. Confidence is admirable, Xerax said, stepping closer. But it can also be foolish. Humanity stands on the edge of a blade. One wrong move, and you fall. Elena met his gaze, unflinching. What's truly foolish is underestimating a species that thrives under pressure. Humanity has survived disasters, wars, and near extinction. We don't fall, we adapt. Xerax smirked, circling her like a predator. Adaptation has its limits. The Council's patience is not infinite. Refuse to comply, and Earth will face the consequences. You think your species is special, but let me assure you, there are countless civilizations far greater than yours that no longer exist. And how many of those civilizations fell because they allowed fear to dictate their actions? Elena shot back. Humanity didn't come this far to grovel. If survival requires submission, then it's not survival, it's stagnation. Xerax paused, his expression unreadable. You are bold, Dr. Corbin. I'll grant you that. But boldness alone is not enough to save your world. You have until the Council reconvenes to reconsider. Choose wisely. Back in the delegation's quarters, Elena relayed the encounter to her team. Malik, predictably, was furious. That wasn't a meeting, it was a threat, he growled. Of course it was, Elena said, pacing. But he's not invincible. His overconfidence is his weakness. He expects us to bow, but if we can present a united front and challenge his methods, we can force him to justify his actions to the Council. Layla looked up from her tablet, her eyes bright with an idea. What if we expose him? The Arathori have a history of exploiting new members under the guise of tribute collection. If we can find evidence that they've overstepped their bounds in the past, it could undermine Xerax's position. Elena nodded. Good. Start digging through the archives. Lynn, keep tracking the delegates. Find out which factions might support us if we give them the right nudge. The next day, Elena mingled discreetly during an informal council gathering. The atmosphere was more relaxed than the formal sessions, the delegates exchanging pleasantries and subtle barbs over alien delicacies and holographic displays. Elena approached a group of crystalline beings, their refractive bodies glimmering under the artificial light. One of them, a delegate named Karel, had seemed sympathetic during the earlier session. Representative Karel, Elena began, offering a respectful nod. I wanted to thank you for your insight during yesterday's proceedings. Karel's voice resonated like wind chimes. You are bold, human. Few dare to speak against Xerax so openly. Boldness is sometimes all we have, Elena replied. But I wonder, do you agree with him? Is the tribute system truly the best way to foster loyalty and cooperation? Karel hesitated, their facets shifting as if reflecting an inner debate. The system has endured for millennia. Yet, it is not without its flaws. Many among us question its fairness but remain silent. And silence allows oppression to thrive, Elena said. Humanity may be new here, but we see things differently. If the Council is to thrive, it needs innovation and diversity, not subjugation. Karel's light shifted, signaling intrigue. You are unusual, human. Perhaps that is what this galaxy needs. Late that night, Layla burst into the quarters, her face alight with triumph. I found it. A case file from 70 years ago. The Arathori forced a tribute from the Nefari, a species barely spacefaring at the time. When the Nefari couldn't deliver, the Arathori orchestrated their downfall, claiming it was a natural extinction event. The evidence is buried, but it's there. Elena's heart raced. Perfect. This is exactly what we need. If we can expose this at the next session, it'll force the council to reconsider Xerax's authority. Malik, still skeptical, crossed his arms. And if they don't? Elena met his gaze. Then we double down. Humanity isn't here to be pushed around. We fight with everything we've got: intellect, strategy, and courage. It's all we've ever had, and it's always been enough. As the simulated night deepened, Elena stared out at the glowing expanse of the Dyson sphere. Tomorrow, they would confront the council with the evidence in their argument. The stakes were immense, but Elena felt a flicker of hope. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore, they were fighting for a place among the stars. And she wasn't about to let them fail. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with anticipation. The chamber, filled with the representatives of countless species, seemed to hum with energy as the session reconvened. All eyes were on the Earth delegation. They had made a bold stand, and now the galaxy awaited their next move. Dr. Elena Corbin stood at the edge of the central dais, her expression calm but determined. She knew this moment was critical. Earth's survival depended on what she and her team did next. Earth delegation, Archon Xerax's Nine's voice boomed, cold and commanding. The Council has considered your defiance. This is your final opportunity to present a tribute worthy of our coalition. Fail, and your world will face the consequences. Elena stepped forward, meeting Xerax's golden gaze without flinching. Archon, members of the Council, she began, her voice steady, humanity stands here not as beggars but as equals. We came to the stars to grow, to learn, and to contribute, not to bow. And we've uncovered evidence that calls the entire tribute system into question. A ripple of surprise moved through the assembly. Elena gestured to Layla, who activated a holographic projection in the center of the chamber. The glowing image displayed records from the Nefari incident, falsified reports, covert Arathori operations, and the deliberate manipulation of a fledgling species. 70 years ago, the Arathori orchestrated the destruction of the Nefari under the guise of tribute enforcement, Elena said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. They were not an isolated case. This system, designed to foster cooperation, has been twisted into a tool for exploitation. Xerax's expression darkened, but he did not interrupt. Elena continued. Humanity refuses to be another footnote in galactic history. If tribute is truly about strengthening the coalition, then we propose a different approach. Let Earth contribute its ingenuity, its resilience, and its perspective instead of resources that would leave us defenseless. A crystalline delegate, Kar-El, stood, their voice chiming like bells. These accusations are grave. If true, they demand accountability. Archon Xerax's, how does the Arathori respond? Xerax's rose from his seat, his imposing figure radiating anger. This is a desperate ploy by a primitive species. The Nefari were weak, their collapse was inevitable. The Arathori merely facilitated the natural order. That's a convenient excuse, Elena interjected. But the evidence says otherwise. If the Council allows this behavior to continue, it risks undermining the very unity it claims to uphold. How can trust exist in a coalition built on fear? The chamber erupted in debate. Delegates argued in dozens of languages, some supporting Elena's stance, others siding with Xerax's. The Arathori contingent glared at the Earth delegation, their disdain palpable. After what felt like an eternity, a senior member of the Council, a towering avian with shimmering green feathers, called for order. The Council shall deliberate on these accusations and proposals. Representative Corbin, you and your delegation will remain present to answer questions as needed. Elena nodded, her heart pounding. The hard part wasn't over yet. Hours passed in tense discussions. Delegates approached Elena with probing questions, some genuinely curious, others overtly hostile. She answered each inquiry with precision, leaning on her team's expertise when necessary. Dr. Lin observed the interactions carefully, whispering insights to Elena between conversations. Kar-El is firmly on our side now, but the Sithrix delegates are skeptical. Focus on the moral implications, they seem more concerned with principles than politics. Elena took his advice, shifting her approach with each faction. To some, she emphasized humanity's potential as allies. To others, she underscored the dangers of unchecked power within the council. Slowly, she began to see cracks forming in the opposition. When the council reconvened, the chamber was silent. The Avian senior member stood again, her piercing gaze sweeping over the assembly. The council has reached a decision. Representative Corbin, step forward. Elena did so, her team watching from the sidelines with bated breath. The Avian's voice was solemn. The council acknowledges the evidence presented and recognizes the validity of your concerns. The tribute system, as it stands, requires review. Humanity shall not be required to pay tribute in the traditional sense. Instead, your species will be granted a provisional membership, conditional on your contributions to the Coalition's intellectual and strategic advancements. A wave of relief washed over Elena, but she kept her expression composed. Thank you, honored council members. Humanity will honor this opportunity and prove its worth through action. Xeraxes rose abruptly, his voice filled with cold fury. This sets a dangerous precedent. If humanity's insolence is rewarded, others will follow. The council risks chaos. The Avian responded, her tone firm. The council exists to unite, not to dominate. If the coalition's unity is threatened, it is because of actions that betray its principles, not because of those who challenge them. For a moment, Xeraxes seemed ready to argue further, but he hesitated. The tide had turned against him, and he knew it. Without another word, he sat down, his golden eyes smoldering. Back in their quarters, the Earth delegation erupted in a mix of laughter and exhausted sighs. We did it, Layla said, sinking into a chair. I can't believe it, but we actually did it. Don't get too comfortable, Malik warned. Xeraxes isn't going to let this go. He'll be watching for any excuse to undermine us. Elena nodded, her expression thoughtful. Let him watch. The best way to counter him is to deliver on our promise. If humanity proves its value, his influence will dwindle. This is just the beginning. Lynn raised an imaginary glass. To humanity's beginning among the stars, and to a leader who refused to back down. Elena smiled, though her mind was already racing with plans for the challenges ahead. Humanity had won this battle, but the war for its place in the galaxy was far from over. As she looked out at the vast expanse of the Dyson sphere, she felt a quiet pride. Earth had stood firm against the most powerful beings in the galaxy and carved out its place not through submission, but through resilience and intellect. This was not the end of their story. It was the first chapter of something far greater.